Hey everyone, Scott from RPGFan, and today, thanks to the lovely people over at Square Enix, I not only get to share a hands-on preview of the upcoming Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, but I also got to sit down and do an interview with the game's producer, Takeshi Ichikawa. I will do my best to go over everything I learned while playing the demo and from the interview in this video, but I encourage you to read the full interview as well, which you can find a link for in the description below, along with a written version of this preview if that's more your jam. I hope you enjoy. So the ongoing plethora of RPGs of yesteryear getting remasters and remakes continues with the remake of one of PlayStation 1's biggest RPGs, Dragon Quest VII. We often have the debate on what is considered a remake or a remaster, but in this case, Square Enix decided to give the remake the moniker Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. So you may be wondering, just what is a reimagined game? To help answer that question, I was allowed to play two small sections of the Wetlock and Emberdale Islands to help get an idea of what a reimagined game is all about. If you've ever played any version of Dragon Quest VII, you know that this game is long, like 100+ hours just to beat the story long. It involves so many different sub-stories on each different island, a prologue that takes almost 2 to 3 hours to reach its first battle, and involves so much backtracking throughout the game that sometimes it felt more like a chore to play. And it's kind of understandable why the early 2000s era Enix did this. One of the biggest gaming franchises in Japan was making the leap from the Super NES to the PlayStation. So going from Dragon Quest VI to VII, it also needed a huge amount of content to show just how the franchise was evolving. So while it wasn't perfect, behind it all was a fantastic RPG and maybe one of the best Dragon Quest games. So while the Dragon Quest remakes may have just needed a few graphical overhauls or some tweaks, it's evident that Dragon Quest VII needed something more. Thus, Square Enix's attempt to reimagine the game. To do so, they focused on three main aspects: visuals, story, and battle. So let's take a look at all three and how they've changed. Let's start with the visuals first, since the thing you will notice about Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is that this game looks similar to Dragon Quest XI. The obvious difference is the tonal shift to a more doll-like look for the characters. This was intentional, and a lot of research went into this when the game was in early development. The development team noticed that this doll-like look was pretty well regarded across various forms of media around the world, and aimed to mimic it. The short and adorable look also harkens back to Akira Toriyama's original artwork for the game, so it works on that level too. The in-game character models were all based on real, lifelike dolls that were created, so it really gives off this feel of playing with tiny figurines. In addition, exploring the towns makes you feel like you're walking around in a diorama, adding to the experience. The animations are all very well done as well. Faces and body movements are expressive, even from the enemy and NPC characters, and battle animations are sometimes just as over the top as they are in Dragon Quest XI. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined also plays as smooth as it looks, a vast improvement over both the original PlayStation 1 and 3DS versions of the game. So the second aspect that has been reimagined is the battles. Now, to be fair, battles in Dragon Quest games rarely ever change. They are turn-based affairs, but each game does introduce new systems. For instance, the original Dragon Quest VII expanded the vocation systems from Dragon Quest 3 and 6. But Dragon Quest VII Reimagined takes things a step further. If the graphics look strikingly like Dragon Quest XI, you can bet your bottom dollar that battles also play a lot like Dragon Quest XI. Instead of trying to emulate the first-person style of the old 2D Dragon Quest games, of which the original 7 falls under, the developers instead decided to take this new art direction and put it to life in and out of combat. Battles are quick and snappy, the animations for the characters, enemies, and bosses are all different, plentiful, and fun to watch. And it plays and borrows a lot from Dragon Quest XI, but there are two big changes here. Dragon Quest VII Reimagined introduces the Let Loose attacks, which are similar to Dragon Quest XI's Pep Up attacks. They offer a variety of different power-ups in battle after you've been attacked or attacked the enemy a number of times. Which one you get to use depends on the vocations that character is currently using. Yes, vocations plural, because Dragon Quest VII Reimagined lets you now use 2 vocations at once with the new moonlighting system. Vocations are basically Dragon Quest's job system, and much like Final Fantasy, some games have them and some don't. The original Dragon Quest VII's big addition was the inclusion of over 50 vocations to the system. In Reimagined, they have been streamlined a bit. First off, you can now equip and learn 2 vocations at once, giving each character access to more spells, abilities, and let loose attacks in order to help players out. It can also help players work on other vocations without having to feel weak and start from the beginning each time they want to change vocations. You can keep a max vocation for its stats and abilities while working on leveling another on the side. The other big change is by pressing down on the D-pad, you can now access the career sphere and talk to Jackie from the All Trades Abbey whenever you want to change vocations. It eliminates one of the biggest issues with the other versions of the game, which was backtracking to the All Trades Abbey every time you wanted to change vocations or master them. An amazing quality of life feature that was added. That being said, there is another change in that there is no more monster vocations in Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. Instead, you can now equip monster hearts as accessories to boost stats and give additional benefits in combat. There's also now the Monster Master vocation, which seems to incorporate a lot of the abilities of the old monster vocations into one. So altogether, the battles in the original Dragon Quest VII that were pretty boring affairs have been changed significantly to possibly the best iteration of Dragon Quest's turn-based system. Gotta love those job systems in RPGs. Additionally, there is optional difficulty this time around as well. You can, in the settings, adjust a lot of the different aspects of combat to suit your taste. Dragon Quest can sometimes feel almost unfair in certain aspects, but others love that unfairness. So now you can manually adjust the things you like, such as the damage done, experience gained, and gold, for example. A nice addition because the original Dragon Quest VII can pretty hard in certain places and super easy in others. There's not a lot of balance. So experiment all you want to find that nice balance this time around. Now, story is the last part of the reimagining, and this is where fans might get a bit divisive. I don't want to get too much into spoilers, but the two sections I played seem to play out pretty much a 1-to-1 compared to their previous incarnations, including all the really dark parts of the stories. This is, however, not true for some other parts of the game. As I discussed with producer Ichikawa in our interview, some parts of the game have been changed, and the overall story has been changed as well. 3 islands have been cut from the story, and 4 have become optional side quests to do at your leisure. But more importantly, new stories have been added to the game that were never seen in either the PlayStation 1 or 3DS versions of this game. These new stories will build upon the relationships between the player characters and really flesh them out more than they ever were before. We've already seen a sneak peek at one of these with the recent Kiefer story trailer that was shown off. Their goal was to expand upon Dragon Quest VII, as well as keep a lot of the darker tones throughout its story. As someone who thinks Dragon Quest VII had some rather unnecessary additional fluff throughout the game that can really turn people off about halfway through, I for one am looking forward to seeing how things are handled this time around. And more importantly, I'm looking forward to seeing more stories that directly involve the main characters instead of some filler story arcs. I really enjoyed my time with the game and the small time I had to play it. If you really enjoyed Dragon Quest XI, and have been trying to wait patiently for Dragon Quest XII, and the 2D HD versions of 1, 2, and 3 haven't really been your thing, then Dragon Quest VII Reimagined is sure to scratch that itch. I really hope that this kind of reimagining is in the cards for games like 4, 5, and 8 in the future as well, as they are often regarded as some of the best games in the series, and it'd be awesome to see them in a new light as well. I want to thank Square Enix once again for inviting us out to play one of my favorite Dragon Quest games and get a tiny taste of what's in the store. If you want more info, I highly suggest that you check out the interview from the preview as well. Once again, the link is in the description below. And that's all I have for this preview. As always, if you enjoyed this video, likes, comments, and subscribing go a long way to helping us out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask in the comments section down below, and I'll do my best to answer any that you may have. Or just let us know what your favorite Dragon Quest game or character is. Have a great night, and I'll see you in the next one.